Thank you for tuning in with us today. HBCUs have taught some of the greatest minds in American history, which allow them to work towards the change we all want to see in the world. These companies have been chosen by the nation's 15 ABET accredited HBCUs to receive special recognition for supporting HBCUs in the never ending pursuit of knowledge. Everyone, I'm proud to present the U.S. Black Engineers Magazine 2022 Top Supporters List. I hope you all are clapping and cheering at your computer screens like I was. What an honor it is to be on the list of exclusive technological powerhouses. We're going to give our panelists a break. They've been talking a lot, but don't stray too far away. We have a Leading Forces special in store for you during the break and this intermission. We'll be playing the BEYA HBCU Engineering Deans Roundtable from the BEYA conference that originally aired earlier this year. Get yourself a snack, sit back, and relax.
Good afternoon. On behalf of the HBCU Engineering Deans Council, we're so glad that you all were able to join us today. It is wonderful to see you, and it's a pleasure to be here today to talk on the roundtable topic of Beyond the Pandemic, Navigating the Challenges of Now. I am Robin Koger, the chair of the council, and I'm going to have my fellow deans introduce themselves. Before I do, one thing that I wanted to mention is that unfortunately, Dean Joyce Shirazi of Hampton, Dean Pam Obiam of Peer Review, and Dean Derek Dunn of University of Maryland, Eastern Shore, as well as it looks like Dean Albee, who's the interim dean at the FAMU FSU College of Engineering. Looks like they're not able to join us today, but we are happy to see you and we're looking forward to having a conversation. So to begin, I'm going to have the deans introduce themselves. Dean Aglin, would you mind beginning?
Yeah. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Heshmat Aglan, and I'm the Dean of the College of Engineering, Tuskegee University.
Excellent. Dean Barton?
Oscar Barton Jr. here. I'm the Dean of the Clarence M. Mitchell Junior School at Morgan State University.
Great. Dean Shetty?
Hi, good afternoon. This is Devdas Shetty. I'm the Dean of the School of Engineering and Applied Sciences at the University of District of Columbia, Washington, D.C.
Great. Associate Dean Mensa?
Good afternoon. My name is Patrick Mensa. I serve as the Associate Dean of our College of Sciences and Engineering at Southern University. I'm here on behalf of our Dean, Patrick Carey. Thank you.
Thank you. Dean Haile?
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Haile, and I'm the Dean for the College of Engineering and Technology at the Virginia State University.
Thank you. Dean Walters?
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Wilbur Walters, Dean for the College of Science, Engineering, and Technology at Jackson State University.
Great. Dean Keith?
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Michael Keeve. I'm the Dean for the College of Science, Engineering, and Technology at Norfolk State University.
Great. Dean Anderson?
Good afternoon. My name is John Anderson. I'm the Dean of the College of Engineering and Architecture at Howard University.
Thank you. Dean Lee?
Good afternoon. This is Lin Lee. I'm Interim Dean, College of Engineering, Tennessee State University.
Dean Dang?
Good afternoon. I'm ZT Dang. I'm serving as Interim Dean for the College of Engineering, Technology, Physical Sciences at Alabama A&M University.
Excellent. And if I failed to say so, I am the Dean at North Carolina Agricultural and Technical State University, the Dean of the College of Engineering. All right, let's begin. So some in this audience might describe our topic of Beyond the Pandemic, Navigating the Challenges of Now, as a bit provocative. Dean Barton and Dean Haile, would you mind in both taking just a few minutes to concisely share a few of the challenges of now that our universities are navigating?
Thanks, Dean Koger. I just want to sort of contextualize what we're undertaking and going through as HBCU deans. I joined Morgan at the height of the pandemic in June 2020. Just 1 month prior, we lost to murder George Floyd. And to date, if we look at the impact of the pandemic on us as a global community, there have been 500 million cases of COVID. Roughly 350 million of those have recovered. We've lost over 5 million folks to COVID-19. And the impact is far reaching. It has pervaded us in our academic culture. Our students now have recognized that they are experiencing more mental illness, more mental challenges. They are lacking motivation. They are suffering from isolation. And they are feeling that their academic prowess is being compromised by working in COVID. And those numbers I mentioned came from a study from Penn State. So when we look at the direct impact and the collateral impact of COVID, we see that there are a number of things that we have to take account of. There are some other collateral damages. We are now questioning the value of science because of COVID. We're questioning our personal freedoms, and now we are prolonging and polarizing our society. Not recently, not more than a few months ago, many of us have gone through a startling situation where we thought we would never see again. And that was the situation in which our students were traumatized due to recent terrorist threats. And this is domestic terrorism and the idea of bomb threats. So in addition to handling those elements I mentioned before about COVID, our students are additionally worrying about their personal challenges. These bomb threats are not intended to inflict personal harm, but rather to add to our students' emotional distress. In addition to those, we continue to worry about police brutality. So when we think about beyond COVID, we're not only thinking about the direct impact, the collateral impact, but the additional impact our students are facing. These are not pranks, ladies and gentlemen, and they should be taken very, very seriously because they are jeopardizing our students' wellness.
Thank you, Dean Barden. Dean Haile, do you have anything to add?
Yes, Dean Cogar, thank you for the question. We all know that most of these challenges that were mentioned by Dean Barton had existed prior to the pandemic. Yes, some of these challenges came back with renewed energy fueled by the pandemic, political extremism, structural racism, and economic problems. Mm-hmm. COVID crisis simply amplified these deeply rooted inequalities in education, healthcare, and professional employment that have existed for many, many years. But remember, the pandemic is still here. Mm-hmm. It's still affecting our classroom instruction. And as Dean Barton said, that has led to a second challenge, which is students' mental health, specifically anxiety and loneliness. The mental health and emotional well-being of our students are tied to all the social, economic, and racial inequalities that are on the rise. The other recurring old challenge is something that I haven't heard was mentioned, is high student debt. You know, it's an old challenge, but which continues to manifest as current challenge. And it's proportionally students at HBCU that are affected to a greater degree. And we know that this is mainly due to unequal state and federal funding, because less money to HBCUs means less money that we can give to our students or put into instructional and research resources to educate our students. Yes, the money through Federal CARES Act has helped us a lot, you know, while transitioning during the pandemic. And there were a few positives that resulted in the aftermath of the killing of George Floyd and due to the huge disparities exposed by the pandemic. One such consequence was the giving that we have seen from philanthropic like Mackenzie Scott and Red Hastings. But the challenge now are twofold. One, these gifts in no way would make up for decades of discriminatory state and federal funding. And moreover, they may not be sustainable. The second, because of the acute financial need of the HBCUs, these gifts are quickly utilized to support the students and also the need for capital improvement, rather than being saved as endowment for long-term fiscal stability and security. So those are the challenges that I see as being a challenge of now.
Thank you, Dr. Haile, Dean Haile. So, you know, maybe some in the audience are surprised that Dean Barton, you mentioned terrorist attacks or the threat of terrorist attacks. Just by a show of hands, how many of the deans' campuses either had a threat or an actual attack in the last 6 weeks of that kind of terrorist kind of attack? Okay, all but one, which is any too many. And so there was a little bit of hint of what the effects of those are on our university, but does anyone want to share some of the things you've seen as the effects of that? Sure, Dean Anderson.
So one of the things that became very clear, because we had multiple threats, was just that it was impacting all across. I mean, staff, students, faculty, and there was a certain amount of weariness from the pandemic, and then sort of like disbelief that more was being added on. And so you're trying to talk about, okay, make sure you do the weekly testing, make sure you wear masks. And then it almost for those moments paled in comparison to the thought of, a bomb threat and the possibility that it could occur, because you don't know, right? All you know is that the threat, and you feel that threat. And when you know that the FBI is investigating, dogs are being used to try to identify whether areas are clear, it really the magnitude of the threat becomes something that's, the stress becomes very palpable. So one of the things that our president did was had a mental health day. And I think it was then when he had the mental health day that you really realize how much stress that you were under and others were under, because it was interesting at a Dean's Council meeting. One of the deans said, you probably don't realize how much of an impact this will have. And when she first said it, I was, it didn't quite hit. And then when you talked to faculty and staff and students, you really saw how much it really had an impact. And then finally, the provost called a meeting to discuss the bomb threat. The notice went out at 6 o'clock for a meeting at 7, a town hall. There were 1,000 people on the town hall in 1 hour notice.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thank you for that answer. I guess in thinking about any of the dean's personal point of view, what does this increase in attacks on our campus, or the threat of attacks on our campus, say about the social climate of our nation as you see it? I know it's your own personal opinion, but does anyone want to give a point of view on that?
I'll jump in and start the conversation, Dean Koger. We continue, I think as HBCU deans, we continue to operate from guiding principles that are rooted in facts, honesty, and a sense of community. I think we now must contend what we are faced with, which has been promoted as alternative facts. And these alternative facts are leading to recognizable truths that people are adopting. Climate change doesn't exist, is an alternative fact. Fraud in fair and free elections exists, is an alternative fact. COVID is not as severe as it should be considered an alternative fact. And racism does not exist. We have to realize that these alternative facts are creating truths that are slowly eroding our society and eroding our rule of democratic law. So I'm a little bit unnerved by it, but I think as we continue to recognize the value of what we do as deans, we can make a tremendous impact on where we go in the future.
No, thank you for that. Any other dean want to give a personal point of view of what's going on in the social climate, or what it says about the social climate of now that so many of our campus has experienced those kind of threats or attacks?
Yes, I'll weigh in on that. In terms of the, I guess, the social climate and the politics, and has affected our campus here at Norfolk State University. We at the beginning of the semester, all faculty, staff, and students were required to have the vaccination and booster through the booster in order to come back to campus. As soon as the governor was put into place in January, of course, that mandate has now been rescinded. And the only thing that we can do now is say we strongly encourage the faculty, staff, and students to have the booster through the booster to come to campus. So in terms of the politics, that has now gone into affecting, I guess, policies on campus as well. But also back with the bomb threat, we had one in January. And so the camp announcement says, if you see something, say something. Anything out of the ordinary should be reported to campus authorities immediately. And so you are constantly have this additional stress each day of your safety. Is that something that I should report? And you're constantly looking around to see anything that is out of the ordinary. And then thinking about, again, your safety on campus as well. So it's something that's a constant. We have of course, the pandemic, but now you have this additional weight on students, faculty, and staff at your university as well. So, I mean, it's affected us as well.
No, I understand that.
Yeah, and we have a wellness check again every day, in terms of something that the campus has done, in terms of it goes on campus announcement, in terms of a wellness check to see how we are doing.
Yes, I appreciate that. Thanks, Dean Keith. So, Deans, just a couple of you, is there anything that disappointed you as we were navigating this climate of now that you had hoped to see but didn't see? I mean, so it's bad enough to have the experience, so that's a disappointment for sure. But once it happened, is there anything that disappointed you by having to, that you didn't see, that you had hoped you would see?
So Dean Colgar, I may just take that one. First, the level of coverage that the incident got, initially, that on its own
by the larger media.
That's right. And the second is the lack of
it wasn't enough.
It wasn't enough, and then, I mean, imagine had this been happened at Ohio State or one of these, big institutions. And then the second is the lack of sense of urgency, even to investigate, to go out and, go to the core of the reason, what we know, what caused this thing. We already said that the current political climate has emboldened some. Used to be fringe, but now it's becoming sort of a mainstream, that try to terrorize our campus community. And then there was also not enough condemnation publicly. I haven't seen, I mean, maybe it was out there, but it wasn't enough. And then the last thing I would say is this would have been a great opportunity, especially for the corporate world, to seize this moment and then maybe go back and look at this, as I said, that gap in funding and in resources that was invested in these HBCUs. When you look at what they contributed to this nation historically, as well as contributing now, and what they used as resources to get to those contributions, there is a huge gap. And this would have been an opportunity for these corporates, to jump into it and then maybe bring to the attention of the nation.
It was also a moment of possibility for corporate to be advocates and allies and be very vocal about what's acceptable and not. And so there's still that opportunity, but it wasn't what we saw. And that was disappointing to me. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to shift the conversation a bit. And everyone, we didn't mean to be a downer, but we wanted you to know that our campuses are indeed dealing with some things that you may not have seen in the media. And this is a great opportunity for you to realize that that's happening. So the more vocal you are and the more visible you are in being allies and advocates for us, the better it is, because we don't want society to imagine that that's okay. And so, because it's not. Okay, so shifting. All 15 of our campuses continue to strive forward because of the importance we place on graduating well-prepared students, or really professionals, for today's STEM world. So now I need you, deans, I know you're professors, but I need you to be brief in mentioning one, just one. I was gonna ask two, but I think at the time as I'm looking at it, we probably should just ask one, just one new happening, either academic programs or some other key initiative that your school or college has established this academic year. So, okay, you're all jumping in? Okay, hold on. I'll start in reverse of how I did before. ZT, you wanna go first?
Thank you, Dean Walker. There are so many exciting things happening. Since we just need to mention one, I like to promote our Master of Science program in mechanical engineering and electrical engineering. We started from fall of 2021. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. The Lee.
One thing I really want to emphasize is that the Tennessee Governor Lee proposed $310 million to award to Tennessee State University, but it's including a $60 million for new engineering building, but it's wait for their final approval by the lawmaker. But if they approve, this is a big plus to the College of Engineering in Tennessee State University.
This was in part in relation to the Forbes article?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. Dean Anderson.
Thank you. We are establishing a center for applied data science and analytics. And this center will bring together faculty from our College of Engineering and Architecture and faculty outside our college to bring the diversity of thought that will allow this center, the researchers, to address such problems as health disparities, social justice, climate change. And so we're excited about this initiative that will, we believe, be very impactful for our college and across the university.
Excellent. Dean Keith.
Okay, and so one initiative is the CREST Center for Research and Education in Quantum Leap Science and Technology. And this is a 5-year, $5 million grant that we got for the National Science Foundation. And the goals are the development of new quantum-based technology and the education of the 21st century quantum science workforce, with emphasis on the production of scientists and engineers from groups historically underrepresented in STEM disciplines. And of course, we have faculty from material science, physics, engineering, mathematics, chemistry, all working on this.
Excellent. Dean Walters.
Good afternoon again. Jackson State University, we recently received a $10 million award from the Department of Health and Human Services to expand our research in the area of data science and training the next phase of students across the College of Health Sciences and the College of Science, Engineering, and Technology here at Jackson State.
Great. Dean Haile.
At Virginia State, we initiated the establishment of Advanced Manufacturing Logistics Institute that will focus on new innovation in Industry 4.0 automation and intelligent systems.
Excellent. Associate Dean Mensah.
Southern University, we have recently initiated a cybersecurity talent initiative program that cuts across all our curriculums in engineering and computer science, realizing the importance of cyber threats within our nation and manufacturing industry. I must say that these are new curriculum initiatives that will train to increase the workforce in cybersecurity.
Excellent. Dean Shetty.
Hi, good afternoon. So at the University of District of Columbia, we have introduced a new academic program this year. It is a BS program in cybersecurity. We have already a ABET accredited program in computer science, and we have expertise and some funding from NSA. So the program will start in fall, but it is so popular that already internally there are students in spring. So it is getting launched right now.
Excellent. Congratulations. Dean Barden.
Morgan State is positioning itself to be an R1 within a 10-year window. And in order for us to make that journey, we commissioned a blue ribbon panel last fall that contained a Nobel Prize laureate, a National Medal of Science winner, and our very own Eugene M. Deloach. And that panel came up with some recommendations for core research areas in which we should engage in order to reach our goal. Predictive analytics and brain science are one, equitable AI, climate science, Internet of Things, and STEM education will be our focus areas. Thank you.
Thank you. Dean Aglin.
Good afternoon again. Actually, I'm going to go to academic. We have implemented recitation classes in the last 3 semesters, actually. And these are in basic science classes and math. And each class has 1 hour in the evening recitation, where we have about 25 faculty having these recitation classes. And of course, this is we want to make sure that the students really are learning. So an extra hour in each class. And we looked at the data, and we found that it is very effective just to add some, especially in the evening, because the students during the day, they're from Zoom to Zoom. And that was a very successful initiative. And we've planning to continue with it even after pandemic.
Great, thank you so much. And at North Carolina A&T, and I know, Deans, how hard it is to just say one, but the thing I think I'll mention is that we have 8 master's programs and 5 doctoral programs, but we put 5 of our master's programs as online programs in 2022. So data science and engineering, electrical engineering, civil engineering, computer science, and industrial and system engineering, all 5 of those programs are launching their online versions this in 2022. So, and that's to reach the world and of course, across the nation. All right, thank you so much, Deans. I know that was hard, so I appreciate you keeping it down to 1. All right, would 3 of the deans, not everybody, just a subset of the deans, just share a recent government or corporate partnership that is an exemplar in demonstrating how companies can work with our institutions? So as you listen to each other, if the point that's of value is already mentioned, then don't mention the same one so that we can show them the variety of ways that they can work with our institutions. Any volunteers? Dean Agler?
Sure. Yeah, we have recently actually been awarded a DoD Center of Excellence entitled Aerospace Education Research and Innovation Center. And that is a multi-year project. But what is for us from this initiative with DoD is to develop an interdisciplinary master in aerospace and mechanical engineering, leading to a PhD in this area. Also, the research component will enhance our capability in experimental aerodynamics, additive manufacturing, and ceramic matrix composites. Also, within the center, we have an innovation or a makerspace lab where bringing some real-world projects from DoD to work for our multi-discipline, actually, students from all over the engineering discipline and other disciplines as well to work on these projects. And we have submitted 1 project to the Army where the interdisciplinary and multidisciplinary students, and these all undergraduate students and graduate students working. In addition, we have the also the link with industry as well. So
Wait,
that's,
but Dean Agler, could you kind of underscore the valuable part of the partnership that translates whether it's you or us from that?
yeah, actually the center, through the interaction with DoD, Army, Air Force, and Navy, it enhances our capability and also the interaction with faculty and some other industry as well. So the funding was $1 million a year, but within a year, we had about maybe $750,000 extra from various industry with working on some of these basic applied research, actually, what we have. And that's
Okay,
really
so
that's
is the
what brought
value
this in.
that you're building relationships with the DoD, or is the value that you're doing projects that are important to the DoD?
Both, actually, both,
Okay.
because you
No,
know
that's good.
once you bring the DoD in and with their project, other industry also, which is sponsored by DoD, will come also and join. And I remember 5 aerospace industry have joined us in some of the work, which so it provides a synergy for the whole college and the Tuskegee.
Okay, thank you, sir. Anyone else? And again, underscoring the value of it, because even though I'm not letting every dean talk, it's important to emphasize that value so that, because really it will apply to any of our institutions.
Right.
Any volunteers?
Yep, can I jump in, Dean Coburn?
Sure.
So I'll first say that we were awarded the opportunities to establish a center for equitable AI at Morgan State and the School of Engineering, and the center will cross-cut engagements a number of our schools. I think 5 or 6 schools and colleges will be part of the center, growing faculty, building research collaborations. The value-added proposition I shared with you today is that this center is funded at $3.1 million, and it is in perpetuity. It is written as a budget line item in our state budget, and as long as we continue to perform and develop appropriate feedback, content, whatever the metrics are, that will remain a line item in the state's budget.
That is very valuable. Dean Walters.
Yeah, Robin, I'd like to expand on a relationship we have now with Walmart. And it's been, the value added is that not only have they come and said, we want to do these things with you, but they've opened up their little storehouse of executives and employees, getting the students to travel there, meeting with them on a regular basis. And so it's this corporate interaction with students while they're at the undergraduate level that kind of builds their confidence. You start to hear them talking about, hey, we need to interact more like this. And so we think this is a model or of some sort. We need the money and the funds and everything, but we also need the interaction. And once you start to get that interaction, you start to see where the money can flow in and where the best investments can be made.
Yes, and the point of that is it's not for recruiting. It's actually for the relationship with the executives, because all of us expect our students to be successes in their professional careers. And so they're getting a sense of it by working with students now through your office. Absolutely. Thanks for sharing that. And by the way, let me just make sure I say that we thank General Motors, Walmart, and Global Tech for being sponsors of this particular workshop of the roundtable. Thank you so much. All right, I'm going to go to the next questions. Not everybody again, and someone who hasn't been speaking. What can our AMY companies and government friends do to assist our institutions? Oh, sure. Associate Dean Mensah.
All right, great. One thing that I see for sure is our companies, AMY companies joining us in programs that would basically help in professional development of our students. An example recently that I think has bode well for our students, within our CREST program, we have research experience for students. Now, Dow recently, engaged us and said that, well, want to see what you can do, what we can do to help you. In the process, they volunteered as mentors. They also volunteered to participate in the professional development programs that we have for the students weekly. I think these activities goes a long way in basically preparing our students for industry, for the culture in industry. So the more companies that can get engaged in these activities would be great. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Dean Shetty, are you thinking about it?
Yeah, I mean, just along the same line, we have this expert in residence. In fact, one company is already helping us in the area of cloud computing, computing. Those people get involved in the curriculum throughout the semester, give some guest lectures, in that specific area. But it can be expanded to any other areas. So if we can have that arrangement with a number of companies where we can link some expertise to the curriculum, students get exposed to a lot of these interesting things which are going on in the companies. So that will be very beneficial, actually. In addition to that, of course, the companies can get involved in infrastructure, in lab infrastructure, helping us to set up some new facilities will be very much appreciated.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Yes, Dean Deng.
And thank you, Dean Koger. We see a lot of recruiting effort from corporate sponsors coming to the institution to recruit the best and brightest students from our institutions in here. And we appreciate a lot of investment into like a co-op internship, a project type of things in there. But I really like to see more in terms of capacity building. In other words, building our infrastructure, helping us. Say here at Alabama A&M University, we do have a STEM learning, experiential learning initiative. We desperately need those resources from corporate sponsor. So help us to build the infrastructure, build our capacity, our capabilities to produce the best students. I think that's what really needed. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, because by doing that, there'll be even more graduates that they can hire, because you'll have even more available by investing and making sure they're part of the solution of producing the diverse STEM talent or engineering and computer science talent that are in our colleges. So I understand what you're saying there. Thank you.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Okay, no problem. Well, at this time, we wanted to make sure we left time to open up the questions to the audience. And so you can speak out or you can write it in the chat, however you'd like to do that. But we definitely want to be responsive because we appreciate you being here today. And if you have questions for us, we'll be happy to answer them for the audience. Roy Moye the third, please.
Hello.
How are you?
Thank you. I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Everybody can hear me okay?
We can.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. Yeah, this was great. I wanted to just hear all the updates of what's going on, even from the bomb threats and stuff like that. It's just a great level set. I'm representing company Spirit Aerosystems, and I want to shout out Tuskegee University. I don't know if Langston's on, and North Carolina A&T will have interns from your institutions this summer in our internship program. So very excited about that. But that being said, what are some ways that we can support our HBCU students that come? Myself, I was in engineering prior to pivoting over to HR and running our college internship program. So I kind of understand that transition, right, that you have to make. But from an HBCU context, I didn't know if there were some things that I specifically, since I kind of own this, right, I have that influence to support your students, not just the ones this summer, but in the future. What are some ways that I can make sure they're supported throughout their time this summer?
I'll start, and then and looks like Dean Aglin, you're ready to answer that?
Go ahead, Rob.
Well, one thing to think about is consider, let's say that you have great experiences with the students that are with you this summer. Consider if your company might offer scholarships in your company's name, either to the students that interned with you so that you can reduce their cost of education, or why don't you launch a scholarship program at any of our institutions, because that's always needed and it's always welcome. And in those ways, you're helping the cost of education to be alleviated somewhat for students. If you look at a typical student, and different schools have different costs, but if it costs a student $25,000 a year just to be in school, then you can imagine how much it would help if you were to help to reduce that cost. So, and that's not even necessarily including books. So absolutely. Dean Aglin.
Yeah, Roy, that's a great question. And thank you for having our students from Tuskegee. What I suggest really be a role model for them and use them as an ambassador for you when they come back to campus, and develop the link. Just come back and see them and try to talk to other students. I think that will be good. That be a win-win. Can recruit more students, and you can have your presence on campus. I think that would be great.
But also know that their quality of their internship experience with you this summer will spread like wildfire as being excellent. And if it's not excellent, it will also spread like wildfire. So please make sure that they have challenging, worthy, engaged internship experiences with you. Does any dean want to add? Dean Anderson? Oh, and I see you also, Dean Haile. I'm coming to you next.
So one thing that I would encourage you to consider is a program called the Vertically Integrated Project Program. And with this program, companies can sponsor design projects that are multi-year and interact with students and, importantly, faculty. And by engaging in these multi-year projects and providing stipend support, as Dean Koger mentioned, you really can add a combination of practice, engineering expertise, mentoring, financial support, and very importantly, a faculty member involved who serves as a go-between the company and the students. And the vertically refers to students from freshmen all the way through up to graduate student level. And so students who participate in this VIP, Vertically Integrated Project Program, they can become future interns. They can also, as was stated, become excellent ambassadors. But then you would be digging in more deeply into the university and creating this sort of organic brand, if you will, with students while directly benefiting them in both practical experience, financially through the stipends. There could be the opportunity for representatives from your company to participate in design reviews. And so you create a much deeper connection. And we've had these for many years, and we have found them to be very successful on both sides. And importantly, when you have that support also go towards a faculty member, then there's always that potential of some research, funded research coming out of that, that again goes to the next level in terms of really making it a worthwhile collaboration and partnership.
Mm-hmm.
And the programs may be called something different at our different institutions, but we do all have those kind of vehicles in place. So all we need is your interest in that, and we can connect you to the right person in our team in order to connect your company so that you are partnering with us in that way. Where was I going next? Was I going to Dean Haile next?
Yeah. So Dean Anderson actually covered the point that I wanted to make, but let me make just one twist quickly. Dean Aglan mentioned about serving as mentor. Dean Anderson mentioned about this project that we have here in campus, and that you invest on those projects. Here are a couple of advantages to that. I forgot the person who asked the question, Mr. Moy. Mr. Moy, so one of the advantages of doing that is, as Dean Anderson said, instead of waiting for summer to get those students alone as interns, now you're going to get the student as well as the faculty. So you're going to have 1 for 2, and that's very important. And the second thing is, you're going to have more student influenced by that investment, because in most cases, we're going to put team of students that are going to work on that project that you're going to sponsor or support. And the support may not be financial. It could be just your engineer's time, coming and, monitoring those projects once in 2 weeks and so on. And the last thing I would like to make is, this whole internship thing, as you know, has that formula of GPA 3.0 and above. And in most cases, the student that we miss out because of that process are the students that are 2.8, 2.9s, who could even be better than the student that we present to you as 3.5s. The only way that you can reach out to those students is through this kind of project. So I think all of you need to consider maybe investing your time as well as your resources or project ideas and bring them, so that we can work on team, with students and faculty. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Deans, for your clear. Did we answer? Do you have a few?
Yes, no, this was great. And to that last point, we actually, and this the power of representation, right? Myself being able to be in those conversations and rooms with our CEO, we did away with our GPA requirement. And there are students that I've personally worked with that were 2.8s, 2.9s that are going to be in our program this year, which is so exciting because they're brilliant students, and sometimes that bar is just ridiculous. I do know also, I wanted to say for North Carolina A&T, we do have the impact welding and phase change enabling sealing of high temperature metal composite interfaces, which was an award that you all, so Spirit Aerosystems was a part of that. So it's exciting to hear the other universities also having opportunities like this, that hopefully as we continue to move forward, we're still a pretty young company. We used to be Boeing and became Spirit Aerosystems in 2005. So we call ourselves a teenager company, right? And so we're just trying to learn more. And so it's really awesome to hear this information. But I want to make sure everybody else has questions or time to ask questions too.
But on behalf of North Carolina A&T's College of Engineering, thank you so much for your partnership.
Absolutely. You're welcome. We got Christiana Webb as a student. We're excited. She'll be coming to Wichita this summer. So
excellent. Thank you so much. Omar Tobias, thanks for your patience.
Thank you very much. So I am also I'm an A&T alumnus. So I graduated in '98. So it's great to see.
Well, that's even better. Thank you.
Right. So very proud to see all the things that are going on with my school and all the HBCUs. My question is, so I'm in the Navy Civil Engineer Corps. I'm the executive assistant to the Chief of Civil Engineers. His name is Admiral Corker, Naval Facilities Engineering Command. I feel that when I was coming up, the Army Corps of Engineers seems to have a good relationship with A&T. I knew about them, I heard about them, but not so much on the Navy Civil Engineer Corps. And I'm just curious as to how we can increase our profile and establish relationships with at the executive level so that it can, sort of work its way down through faculty and students so that the Navy Civil Engineer Corps also becomes a household name in HBCUs.
No, absolutely. No, thank you for your question and thanks for being here today. I think for all of our schools, and I can definitely say for A&T, there was a time when the Army Corps, and as you're saying, you're talking about the Navy Engineering Corps, if we don't see you, then often we don't have the connection. And what I mean is, even with the Army Corps, we don't see a local representative any longer. So when they're not present, when they're not engaged, when they're not partnering with us in any way, it's almost as though we're separated in terms of having a connection. So the individual can make a difference at any of our schools in terms of making sure we know you and that we see the value of how we're working together. And when that's absent, it ends up being someone who might be at a job fair, but it's not actually a relationship with the dean or with the college that is the focus of who you would like to build a relationship with. So that individual does matter, or at least a group. And I think what happens sometimes is you have one person there and then that person leaves, and then no one is backfilling in order to have that relationship continue. And when that happens, it's almost as though it's like a fractured pipeline, it's not existing anymore.
Yes, ma'am. Okay.
Any dean want to add to that?
Yeah, I was just going to add, just come and see us. Anytime, just come and see us and then we'll
begin the conversation.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, I'll take you up on that.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah.
Oh, I see there's something in the chat. Hold on, it might be a question. Nicole W says, thanks for your comments today, deans. What are some ways the research entities of government agencies can begin to build relationships with your faculty in efforts to understand their desire to be notified for future research collaboration opportunities? More specifically, who do we get in contact to get started? Okay. Anyone want to answer?
Yeah, well, I think we'll start with the deans. Just reach out to us and we will facilitate the interaction between you and the faculty.
Yes. And go ahead, Dean Barton.
Oh, and I think many times we are quite familiar with the pathway of our faculty members going to government agencies on IPAs. Maybe let's see if we can have a reverse IPA where some of the senior leadership at some of these government agencies can come to and join us as a year on our faculty, that we're spreading and building the research culture directly. And that, I think, that'll be a great opportunity for us to grow some of our experiences.
No, absolutely. All of us have the ability to have engineers in residence and things of that sort. We do that often with corporations, but we absolutely are willing to do that with someone from the Department of Defense or another federal agency in order to add to the culture and the understanding and the relationships within our colleges. Absolutely. Thank you, Dean Barton. Anyone else want to add to that?
Yeah, I can add something on that. Like, for example, if they get in touch with the dean, so dean can identify the faculty member with whom they can work. So as an example, we had applied for this NASA center in partnership with a company, and it happened this way. The company contacted us, we put in touch with them, and we applied for this NASA CampStar grant, which we got. And now we are working with that company in Pennsylvania in the area of thermal management of a new additive manufacturing product. It has gone to an extent that it has research, there's a patent applications going on. So a lot of success, both our students benefit, company benefit. So it's like a three-way partnership, company, university, and NASA. So as you said, as Dean Aglan said, so it can start with the dean or somebody in the university who can follow it up.
Oh, thank you. Yes.
Yes. So yeah, it starts with Dean. The only thing I would add is getting the opportunity. You know, one of the things that is missing is the link. And one opportunity that our faculty have, because of the teaching load that they have, summer. You know, if some of these labs open, you know, opportunity for some of our faculty to come and work during summer. We have some experience with the Navy lab and the Army lab, research lab, and those produce, you know, those were used as seed or as initial stage for a bigger relationship or bigger funding opportunities. So that would be another thing that I would add.
No, absolutely. Anyone else? Sometimes, because as you're right, you know that grant.gov, and you didn't say this, but we know that the opportunities are also within grants.gov. I think what happens at times is faculty, depending on which agencies they're most familiar with, and you know, just like I do, that how you apply to one part of the DoD is different than another part. So Navy's different than the Army, which is different than the Air Force. And so sometimes the reduction in how many applications you're seeing from our faculty isn't because of interest. It's actually would be helped if they could predict when those applications would be. And I know some have lifted deadlines for that. And so some of it is familiarity. And so the more we can do to build the familiarity, I think the more you'll see more and more of the applications going there. But thank you so much for your questions. What we do want you to know is that our faculty are doing great work and great research, and they want to work with you. And so what we all want to do is just make sure we're continuing to build that relationship and familiarity, and then we will be able to turn the corner that we're looking to turn. Any other questions from the audience?
One more in the chat, Robert.
Yes, one.
Is that Gregory West?
Yes.
Okay. So it says to free up faculty from supporting time-sensitive programs, are HBCUs looking to establish separate research cost centers? So whether we're looking to establish research cost centers or research foundations, so that we hire staff engineers, et cetera, in order to manage part of that research entity, or at least more of the research entity with the short timelines. Gregory West, is that a proper representation of what you're asking?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I'm interested in knowing if HBCUs are interested in establishing separate research cost centers, where you basically are able to establish contracting agencies, contracting arms between the university and a DoD organization or some other organization that is purely focused on the research and not having the faculty committed to teaching classes and trying to complete the research and provide a product to the end user.
Right. Dean Dang, you want to hit that?
Yes, thank you. Now, one example we're trying to do at Alabama A&M is to establish a AAMU Rice Foundation, Research Innovation in Science or Engineering. This is the contract arm for the universities. Traditional grant application going through the sponsor program, but the contract work, quick delivery, subject matter expert type of delivery work going through the Rice Foundations. Now we can use faculty as a subject matter. We can also hire subject matter full-time researchers for the quick delivery. I think this is a good way. We've improved. Rice Foundation has been very productive in the way of operation this moment. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. Dean Barden, did you want to add?
Emphatic yes. That's it.
Keep it short.
Keep it short.
Keep it short. Yes, please. Oh, so that was it. He kept it short. He said, yes, yes. So in essence, what we're saying, Gregory West, is we know that the way to increase the research at our institutions is by making sure we also add to the faculty base by things of what you just mentioned. But the other thing that I just want to say from the point of view of A&T is, I do think that because we also are beginning the journey to R1, but it's also very important that we continue the work we do for the nation of graduating students at the bachelor's, master's, and PhD level. So one of the things about cost centers is they're not quite as effective at basing in the current form. and basing dissertations and thesis for students off of. It isn't great for increasing the volume of research, but from hired hands. And so I think what we're trying to figure out is how can we do both? So we don't want to sacrifice what we do for the nation by not being able to still have our students highly engaged in the research, because we do think that that supply of engineers and computer scientists who are ready to do the complex problems that the government needs is also a very important strength of our institution at North Carolina A&T, but really of all my colleagues' institutions also.
And I totally agree with that. I'm suggesting exactly what you're saying is we need to do both. We need to be able to walk and chew gum at the same time.
Absolutely. We agree with you. Absolutely. Thanks for that question.
So Robin, part of the question is also ski facility. These are security safe location. That was part of the first question. And I go back to my original comment. These are places where we need investment. When I look at our sister institution around Virginia Tech, they didn't get to the place where they are without that kind of investment. So if, we need to have that ski facility, I think we needed to have considerable investment.
Absolutely. And the certification professionals therein. So the building behind me, we just did the dedication of that this past Thursday. But when we built it, I made sure that there's a part that could be made into a skiff. But now we need the partner on the federal level that's going to work with us in order to make sure that it's not a skiff and then not a skiff the next day, but making sure that it's the combination of being certified in that way and that the contracts are there in order to also do that work. So I can put you into the right person in our division of research in order to make that happen, but it does require investment and commitment. And so, absolutely. Thank you, Dr. Haile, Dean Haile. What other questions for us? Okay, while you're thinking about it, let me just share a little bit more. As you are looking, if you were here with us last year or the year before, you know that some of our personnel is changed a bit. And so we want you to know that all across higher education, whether you're talking about at our universities or any university, there's always shifts in personnel. I will be leaving to go to another university for a different role, provost role at the end of this semester, but there will be a new person here. But what I want you to know is I have had the honor of chairing this council of HBCU engineering deans since January 2018. But I want you to know who the new chair and the vice chair and the secretary will be starting in March. So, because we had our votes. And so starting in March 1st, Dean Joyce Henry will be the chair of this council. The vice chair will be Dean Oscar Barden Jr. And DeWitt Haile has kindly consented to continue his role as the secretary of our council. So in March. So I'm still the chair, but starting on March, we're going to shift that to Dean Joyce Henry. And so we just wanted to share that with you while you were thinking about your next question. What's the next question?
While they're all thinking, Dean Cogar, as probably the newest dean on the council, I want to share my.
No, not anymore. Sorry.
Oh, no, not anymore. Yeah.
Not anymore.
But yeah. Well,
you just want to share. Go ahead.
I just want to share. I just want to share my thanks for your leadership, your vision, and your passion for taking us to where we are today. And we wish you quite well, all success in your new role.
Oh, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure, always a pleasure serving with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Robin, for your leadership.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dean Cogar. Thank you,
Absolutely.
Dean Cogar.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
I'm not gone yet. I'm still here. Still here. All right. What other questions can we answer for you all?
This is Roy again. This is just so cool to see all of you all on here and just to know all the great work you're doing. One of the things that we're trying to think about, and it doesn't always work, it just depends on the context of the project, is the virtual remote learning. Now, obviously, many of your students have been doing that for some time. Maybe they're back on campus now. And so we did have two students last year who ended up extending their internship. So a lot of times you'll have an internship, right? But then you can have a co-op through the semester. And so what is everyone's take on either the successes of that, failures of that? I know sometimes it's project-based, right? If you need to be doing something hands-on, you obviously wouldn't be able to do that virtually, but maybe some feedback on what you've seen with your students in regards to a co-op that's done virtually, if you've had that experience, as I can kind of take that information back to our senior leadership as they're kind of going back and forth, right? We're a manufacturing tier 1 aerospace aerostructures company. So we do the engineering work, design, and everything, but also the manufacturing side. So they're trying to debate, is that a direction we fully move towards? So just curious how your students receive that.
Got it. I have an opinion on it, but one of my fellow deans, would you like to share, respond?
Yeah, let me jump in, Robin. I'm a product of a co-op experience. I cannot say it more emphatically. There is value added when students are working side by side, face to face, getting their hands engaged in every aspect of the concept to manufacturing to production to making those critical financial decisions. While the virtual world is something that can facilitate that, I'm concerned it's not the best experience for our students. So, and that's from a personal perspective, having gone through a co-op experience and saw the value that I had in enjoying that.
Absolutely. And I'll add to that, and anyone please feel free to jump in. Virtual by itself can be isolating. And so if you are therefore getting the assignments and then you check in for the meetings that you have and they're all virtual, but otherwise you're really kind of working in an isolated mode, it doesn't have the speed of learning and influence as it does if they're there with you in person. So there are some of our fields, and in manufacturing, it's not easy to do that effectively. There are some of our fields, of course, that there are ways that we can use forums, et cetera, if we were coding or doing things of that sort. But there are many of our fields where you never code in isolation in a company. You are doing it for a purpose that is interrelated to somebody else in some other area. So how, if you're gonna be virtual, how you make sure that that student, because that person is still a student, and if some people who are working at your company are having trouble finding who they need to talk with in other parts of the company, imagine this is an outsider who's only there and immersed in that just for the internship. And if they're virtual, how do they make the connections that are necessary so that they are producing the right result versus the isolated result that wasn't informed in a way it should be? So when companies decide to do the virtuals, and sometimes the conditions, as you know, particularly in the last 2 years, dictate it. But you have to make sure you're ushering the mentorship and the guidance and also connecting that student well so that it's a rich experience as opposed to, yes, it must be, and thank goodness it is a paid experience, but we really want them to be enriched by it and add value to the company through that effort. And so the assignment will dictate how easy it really lends itself to virtual or not.
Yeah, if I can add, like when the pandemic started, we started with emergency remote instruction. Then it became blended hybrid, and then now we are face-to-face, mostly the engineering program, but still computer science, at least 50-60% is remote. One of the good things which happened is faculty got trained in the online delivery, they got certified. That is the positive thing I can see. But as you said, in several courses in mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, manufacturing, the students, they say that it is very difficult to learn those in the online mode. They appreciate the presence in the classroom, you know. So that is the lessons we have learned now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And the quick correction that happens when you're there working together. Before, oh, the deadline is in 2 weeks, but you didn't realize that this wasn't going the way it should have because the mentor couldn't see it in the way that you normally can when you're together. So on the line in that way. Any other comments, Deans? Okay, we hope that was helpful.
Very good feedback, very good feedback. And I kind of have another question. I know you're probably like, man, he's got a lot of questions, but this is just this is a really awesome audience to be in front of. And this is more of like
You're in the center of my Brady Bunch box too. That's interesting. So, yes.
It's not necessarily super personal, but I just know you all have had experience with this. So I am right in a predominantly white organization, especially when you get to the engineering side of the company. And so I'm trying to figure out, because we have a lack of that diversity, and I'm super excited, one, to have worked on the engineering side of things, so I know that world as an engineer, but being a diverse engineer, and now being able to kind of usher in students. And I support full-time engineering hires as well, so not just interns. How to curate that welcoming experience, right? Because I'm not going to be there with their interns all the time, or those full-time, engineers all the time. And so I know one of the things that could be low-hanging fruit is an employee business resource group, which we don't have in the sense of all Black employee business resource group. But really the question is, the challenge I think I run into of like, are you just trying to promote Blackness and all of this within this company, to serve these Black people? What about everyone else, or that sort of thing? And so as I'm beginning to really run into that navigation, even coming to the BEYA conference, right? Like, oh, you're going to a conference on Black Engineer of the Year, that sort of thing. And so I just know that there's a plethora of experience on this call. And so as someone I'm used to being in that space, but I have more influence now, especially in regards to hiring or interviewing and all that stuff. And so just trying to figure out, once we, because it's one thing to say, okay, we're going to connect the HBCUs, we're going to do some sponsorships, help build buildings, whatever, all the stuff, information that you all have wonderfully provided, right? But then once you get those students or those employees at the company, how are you retaining them, and what are some of the things that I can help either initiate, but also how to navigate? I know this is like a crazy three-pronged question, but I'm just trying to tap into the knowledge and wisdom of how to go about doing that in a predominantly white industry and company.
I'll start. For everyone to succeed at a company and have a fair shake at succeeding, then your practices and your policies must be designed in a way that allows, it requires everyone to have the same kind of exposure experience, so that the reviews follow from that. So the more your processes allow biases to take over, and such that you see inequities in how people are reviewed, the worse it is for people who seem to be outliers because they are diverse in some way. So making sure that, especially since you called your company more of a teenage company, looking at those more closely and making sure that you're forcing everyone to follow the rules, as opposed to allowing the rules to not be written. And therefore you're wondering, how come this one's able to move forward and this one isn't, when some didn't have the playbook and others had the golf course playbook. So do what you can to make it written and followed, so that everyone has the opportunity to succeed, and the company therefore would succeed also.
Robin, Roy, also, you need to have the buy-in from the upper management. You have to look for champions in the organization that support your activities. And I'm sure you will find quite a few, they share the same view as you. And this way you can work at least within your company comfortably with, when you bring diversified students, either interns or permanent hiring.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, hi, my name is Joyce Henry. I'm with AT&T. I'm a Howard alum. I want to have a shout out to Dr. Deloach. I remember him when he was at Howard. But what I'd like to say, as someone who came from an HBCU and started working in